This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and for the first time in what feels like a very long time, I'm delighted to be joined by promoter Frank Warren over Zoom. Frank, first and foremost, how have you been?
I'm okay, thanks, Andy. How you been?
I'm good. Obviously, getting by. Good to see boxing back with yourselves. Obviously, Eddie shows as well. And there's obviously a main reason behind us doing this interview today. We saw that the statement that yourself put across to Sky and Eddie and Matchroom, reaching out to them to try and make some fights that people were looking forward to. Just expand on that, Frank, and why now? Why have you decided to get across and try to reach out to Eddie and the team?
Well, I think that, where we are at the moment, we've tested the water with our 3 shows, which we've done at BT Studios, and we worked very hard on them, basically, and most importantly, from a safety aspect. And we said we'd make the shows a certain standard. We've got to move on to the next big ones now. And in the meantime, there's so much uncertainty as to where we're going to be over the next few months. I mean, they've locked down Manchester, they locked down Aberdeen yesterday. So I'm quite conscious of that. So I'm thinking to myself, look, we need to get some of these big fights done. And he, obviously he's blowing the trumpet for his guys, I'm blowing the trumpet for mine. And I thought, hang on a minute, let's do something that makes it work for the fans. Because that's what we care about, is the fans. We want to make some good fights. So I suggested, and we put out a number of fights that we would like to do. And basically set the ball rolling. And I'm quite pleased to know that we look like we're going to have a meeting soon to sort this out one way or another. I hope we're going to sort it out, because BT and ourselves are desperate to do this. We want to do it because we feel it's what the sport needs. Sport at the moment, it's not just boxing. Everybody's in a terrible position, and we need to ensure that we can deliver something that the fans will like, and more importantly, that will be good for our sport and good for the boxers.
Frank, obviously, you mentioned there that you'll hopefully have a meeting soon. Everybody knows that yourself and Eddie spoke on the phone yesterday. Can you just expand on that conversation and what exactly was said between the pair of you?
Well, it was very brief. He said he's in the bubble at the moment with his shows, and as soon as he comes out of the bubble, let's get together. I'm all good for that. I understand he's staying at the in the bubble at the Brentwood Hotel, whatever it is. I'll meet him in the car park tomorrow if it suits. But let's let him. I don't want to cause any issues or problems with it. I just want the meeting. So I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about it. For me, it's important that we make these fights. It's important boxing needs big fights. It's not just here as well. It's in America. We put on some good shows, and he had a good show last week. But we need now to up our game. We need bigger names, bigger names out there and bigger fights, and put all our ego and all the bullshit aside and get on with it and do it.
Obviously, Eddie did a couple of interviews yesterday with IFL. I'm sure you'd have seen them. Just kind of, before I ask you certain questions.
I haven't seen them, so you tell me what to say.
Okay, well, first and foremost, obviously, you mentioned that shows coming back after the pandemic, and you mentioned that the sport's in trouble. What's your thoughts with regards to that?
Look, the world's in trouble. Everywhere you look, there's trouble, over the last few days. I mean, my team, Arsenal, just made 55 people redundant at their work. Virgin's gone bust. Pizza Express have just shut 70 restaurants down. I could write that list on a roll of wallpaper. Everybody's in trouble. All the sports are in trouble. There are a number of football clubs that are on the verge of going bankrupt. Now, we're not in trouble. We have a contract with BT, and it's quite a long contract. It's got many years to run. BT, by the way, are a blue chip company. They own EE. They own all the pipework for broadband around the country. It's a huge sports channel, so don't lose sight of that. So we're very comfortable with the deal we've got. Plus, we've got a great roster of fighters. We've got the #1 heavyweight, the best fighter and the biggest earner on the planet on our roster. So Tyson Fury. We've just done a 5-year extension deal with Daniel Dubois, who's considered to be the best young heavyweight prospects out there, and one of the most exciting. I could run through a roster of fighters we've got. Anthony Yard, Joe Joyce. I'm not going to bore everybody because we put a number of fights out we like to make. We're not in trouble. We can carry on as we are. Now, he may be in trouble, and I don't know about it. I mean, all I'm hearing through the grapevine, he's only got 6 months left on his Sky deal. Who knows what Sky are going to do? The Zone haven't come back yet and put any shows on, or he hasn't put any shows on the Zone at the moment, so maybe that's a problem for him. And it's sad that the Zone had to cancel rights deals with UEFA, Major League Basketball, Major League Baseball, and they also Serie A midway through the contract. Their CEO recently left. You know, they've got 3,000 people work for them. I don't want to see them go bust. You know, they're in the boxing business. That's good for our sport. I don't see anybody in trouble. But what will be good for us is to get together and work and try and secure our sport, which would help him. You know, it'd be great for us, but it'd help him as well. You know, help him get some, you know, big fights on. And maybe, you know, I don't know what his negotiations are like now with Sky on DAZN. Maybe it'll help him with those. But the most important thing for us is to deliver these fights. You know, it's when I say we've got, you know, we had the biggest broadcasting deal in Europe right now, bar none, bigger than anyone else. That's what we have with BT. And, you know, for me, this is, to hear all this stuff, it's very sad, but that's life. And I know at the moment, you know, he's in the bubble over there, but he's got to get out that bubble. It's not just boxing. The world's in trouble. Everyone. So what you got to do, you got to get on with it. I can go back before it's, you know, this terrible pandemic. I can remember I'd done a deal with 3 Olympians. I signed James DeGale, Billy Joe Saunders, and Frankie Gavin. And a couple of them got really, really big money signing bonuses, and a big commitment in purses. They were Olympians, gold medalists included. Within 2 days of signing that deal, Satanta, which was my broadcaster, went bust. And you know what I had to do? I couldn't go back to them and say, you've got to take a cut. I had to take it on the chin. You know, for our own resources, we had to get on with it and do it. The first fight they had, I sold it to Sky for £1 to Vic Wakeling. £1, that was our rights fee. We absolutely done our balls on it, and subsequently lost a lot of money until we got ourselves into a good shape. Now, Matchroom, as we frequently hear, are in really good shape. They've got bundles of money in the bank, because they keep telling us that. I know they've been trying to cut fighters' purses. I heard Andrade was screaming the other week about his purses being cut. You've got to do what we had to do. Don't go back and cut their purses. What you do, you go back to them and pay them, like we all have to do. You take it on the chin, honour your obligations and get on with it, and don't be bleat about it. And that's where we're at. We've all, you know, I've been around long enough to have all experienced the ups and downs and so forth. This is an unprecedented period for everyone, because everyone's livelihoods are at stake. We don't know where this is all going to end. So the reason we're doing what we're doing, the reason I want to sit down and try and get a deal done, and I believe if we get round the table, you know, ourselves and hopefully with Sky and BT, I think there's a will we can get some of these fights done. One thing's for sure, with BT and ourselves, we are very keen to make this happen.
Something else that Eddie mentioned, Frank, he said that when, after the pandemic, your shows came back, and his exact word was they flopped. Then you saw how Fight Camp come back, and he's talked about the figures there with regards to the views. Just again, your thoughts on those comments, Frank?
Well, our shows did not flop. We came back with what we said. Brad Foster, cracking fights to start with. And he's talking about the Barb ratings. Barb ratings, you can look at that a lot of different ways. For example, Barb said, it was a pay-per-view fight, but it said viewers that Joshua and Ruiz peaked at 145,000 viewers. It said the last WWE SmackDown didn't get a rating. It got 0 ranking. So they're saying no one watched it. So according to their ratings about our peak, we do 26,000 times more business than WWE. Do I believe that? Of course I don't believe that. I'm sure some of your people who are watching this watched the wrestling. If one watched it, I'm sure more than one did, and you know how many fans WWE has, it tells you these ratings are very, very unreliable. And this only goes into 5,000 people's homes, by the way. His rating, what people forget, was the show went out on 3 channels, not one channel. It went out on 3 channels. It went out on Sky Action, it went out on Sky Main, and it also went out on Sky Mix, which is a free-to-air channel. We went out behind the paywall of the subscription channel. They put that out free-to-air. And that did not, and they added all the ratings together, which is disingenuous to say the least. I understand at one stage, the peak for 1 minute was 145,000 and the average was 88,000. Now we've only ran, prior to the shows that we run, we only ran 1 show this year. That's all we've done, 1 show prior to the lockdown in 2020. And ours went free to air. We did a free to air show and it got 1.2 million people watched it. Last year, according to Barb ratings, you want to rely on Barb ratings, we did Josh Warrington, Kid Galahad, and Daniel Dubois against Nathan Gordon. They were the highest peaks on subscription TV. Beat all of Sky's. They're a fact. You can go and check them out. We got the highest viewing figures in 2019, and there's no argument about it if you're relying on these ratings. We also have an independent media company, outside media company, who provide us viewing data and so forth, and that information is available for anyone to see. You know, as I said, Fight Channel was free to air, and we, you know, again, you look at Arthur versus Spillman, it got more than double the viewers he had for his Next Gen show. So I don't believe any of this stuff. No one can tell me that WWE did zero. It's impossible for that to happen. So I take all that with a pinch of salt. I don't want to dwell on it. We're very happy. Our broadcaster is very happy. So much so that we want to sit down and try and make these fights happen. They're big fights for the fans. And I don't want to keep kicking. I don't want to kick his ratings. He wants to kick mine with all this bullshit. It's not doing anyone any favours, by the way. You know, doing 88,000 as an average, 88,000 on free channel, on a free to air and on 3 channels, it isn't exactly knocking down the doors, is it? Was it in? I don't think it was even in the top 10 of Sky's sports figures that week for all the different sports they had on. But it's irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. It's all smoke, mirrors, and crap, and people write about it. For example, the guy on the Daily Mirror, is it Domick, whatever his name is, without any knowledge, just taking something that's told to him, without any research or knowledge, even knowing or explaining to people what goes down. So I take that all with a pinch of salt. As I say, we have the biggest broadcast deal in Europe with BT, who are more than happy with what we do. That's all that I care about. And no one can complain about the fights we put on. They've been great fights. And he had a great fight, by the way, on Saturday. That Cheeseman and the Cheeseman fight was a very, very entertaining fight. You know, it's a fantastic fight. But if it weren't for lockdown, that fight probably would have been maybe on a York Hall show or whatever. So we want to get onto bigger stuff now. Great fights. We've done some fights. Brad Foster, great fight. We now need to get these big guys back in action. And that's why we've thrown this out. Say, come on, let's get this done between us. This is important for everybody. It's important for the sport.
Frank, final thing on the Eddie interview before I just ask you a few other things. He also mentioned that you have no dealings with Tyson Fury now and everything goes through kind of Bob Arum. Can you just clear that up for me?
I'll clear it very, very easily. Clear it up. Yeah, I have dealings with Tyson Fury. We have a contract with them, and we have a joint contract with Top Rank and ourselves. And anything that's done for Tyson has to be agreed by all of us. At the moment, he's been the person speaking with Eddie Hearn, and the reason is because obviously he's done that deal for Pulev with AJ. So that's what's been happening. They've been having conversation. But at the end of the day, everybody's got to agree what it is. But we're going to bypass all this stuff now. I've not even brought that into the equation. He's brought that up. But let me tell you something. Whatever happens with Tyson, Queensberry are part of that. End of story. And if anybody thinks any different, they're crazy. And you can ask Tyson. That's the best person to probably ask. But more importantly than this, is let's not try and get off the subject what this is all about. It's about, can his guys be our guys? And a lot of people have had views on it. They're all going to say, I'm talking rubbish. And some may say, he's talking rubbish. You know the easiest way to find out? Let's make it happen. So now I'm an optimist. Promoters are optimists. I'm not a pessimist. I'm not saying we're in a terrible state. Things are terrible. I want to make things better. So you know we're going to make them better? We're going to have a meeting. We've agreed on something. At last, we're going to have a meeting to make this happen for the British public.
Frank, is there a worry at all that this could kind of become a bit of like a to and fro between yourself and Eddie, which might damage any chance of us seeing these cross?
Look, let me just tell you something, and I've got to tell you, the negativity of your question, it annoys me. And I'm not saying it's directed to you, but it's everybody comes out with this shit. I've had, for God knows how long now, you've never spoken to him, you never done this, you never do that. How comes you can't do these fights? They'll never get made. Well, I picked up the phone yesterday and left a message for him to call me, and to his credit, he called me back. And we've agreed to meet. So let's have some positivity about this. Instead of all this negative shite all the time. Boxing's a great sport. We, Queensberry, are in tremendous shape. We've got great fighters. We've got a great TV contract. We can deliver to our boxers. I'm as happy as Larry as far as that's concerned. So let's move on now. Let's get these fights done. I don't want to do it through the media anymore. I just want us to meet, get some of these fights made, deliver.
There's just two more things I just wanted to quickly ask you, Frank, before I do leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. Obviously, one of the fights you mentioned was Jenkins and Ben. Eddie previously said he made the offer. Jenkins and his team were happy with it, but you turned it down. Why did you turn it down back then, and why would you be happy to make it now?
Because he approached the boxer and his trainer direct, and the manager about us. We had the promotional contract. That's not the way we're doing business. You want to make the fight, contact us, like we've done, or we've made offers to him. You know, recently, didn't he have some business going on? And they sent a solicitor's letter to Telemundo, I think it was, only within the last few weeks for interfering with one of their contracts. So that's where that's at. But you know what? Let's meet. I'm sure we can make these fights happen now.
Andy, can you wrap up? Can you just...
Go on, not going to handle this. They just have to wait a minute. Let's go.
Something else which obviously came out was as an article in the Daily Mail with comments from Eddie talking about Andy Ayling and his kind of contacted British Boxing Board of Control about David Diamante and the quarantine rules. Again, what was your knowledge of that entire situation, Frank?
Well, I had no knowledge of it until I was told on the Thursday. This is the bottom line. The tweet went out, as far as I understand, by by the MC. I can't even remember his name. Apparently saying he was just getting on a plane, and there was a message went back saying, "Great, looking forward to seeing you." That was within the 14 days of the bubble. No, it's been said that a complaint was made by Andy Ayling, but he could speak for himself on this, and he actually is, because I think his lawyers are writing to the Boxing Board of Control regarding this today. If there was a complaint, somebody needs to show us that, because no complaint was made. It was a question being asked that as the board officials were at the weigh-in in the bubble where everybody's supposed to be quarantined, because we have a world epidemic come on, and the MC came in from United States, from New York, where the pandemic is quite serious out there, and according to his tweet, not anything to do with Andy, that it was within, it wasn't 14 days clear, it was whatever it was, 11 days or so forth. He was in that bubble with the fighters. The Border Control sent officials to the weigh-in, and then were sending them same officials back into our bubble. And the question was asked, can you check whether this bloke came in, whatever day? Now, let's just get it right. If the MC broke his leg or dropped down dead tomorrow, it would not affect the show in any way. This is not a boxer, this is an MC. The criteria is that Andy's responsible in our office. His responsibility is to ensure that he's our events manager, that everything is safe and well. We did not want the Boxing Board of Control officials coming from somewhere which could be contaminated into our bubble where it'd be affecting our insurance. Andy didn't make it public. If he was up to creating mischief, as being said, then surely he could have told you this or told a newspaper, but he didn't. And somebody from the Boxing Board of Control apparently sent his letter to whatever it is. It was not a complaint, it was an inquiry. And still no one's seen his passport. But that's their business. It's a load of bullshit, and I don't want to get diverted by that. And that's something that obviously Riaf, whatever his name is, who was in the bubble with them from the Mail, has seen the tweet and chose not even to write about it. But that's his choice. That's what they do. I don't care about it. The bottom line is the Border Control are now going to have to say, was a complaint made or not? And I know what the answer is to that. There was no complaint made. It was a question being asked. And if that is not responsibility in what we're dealing with in this pandemic, then somebody's got something wrong with them. And if this fella did come in, in 14 days, no problem. But if he was here 11 days, which is being suggested according to his tweet, then that is a serious issue, because the government are saying it's 14 days. We have a pandemic. People are dying. And we have to keep our shows safe. And the staff at BT in their studios. There's an insurance problem, as I said, regarding things like this, as well as everything else. So Andy Ayling made no complaints, nothing. But you know what? The Border Control are going to have to put a statement out saying whether a complaint was made or not. And if they say a complaint was made, then they will be lying.
Frank, in the ideal world, obviously yourself and Eddie meet up, a spot of lunch. When do you think, if possible, we could see these kind of cross-platform bouts take place?
Look, I'll meet this afternoon. Let's get the meeting on, and then we can work on it.
Eddie did say those two fights in particular he doesn't see happening, Dubois, White, and...
I don't care what he says at the moment. Let's get round the table. You know, a lot of people keep saying all the various fights that are going to happen and not going to happen. We will see when we meet. Let's meet.
Final thing, Frank, obviously there's some rumours going around Frampton Vardanyan. Vardanyan's had some troubles getting into the country. Can you expand on that or just kind of clear that up for me?
We're working on it at the moment.
But Frank, appreciate your time as always. Thanks, Speak to Boxing Social.
Cheers, Andy. Bye.